BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey guys, Roth from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. I'm your regular Wednesday evening host here at BodyBags. It is week 534. It is a random week, and thought I would start digging into the pile a little bit of that nice, beautiful care package just before Christmas. Glenn, aka BDG Reviews, our Monday reviewer here at BodyBags, sent to me such an awesome package. I hate to say there's a standout in anything you get that's a gift like that, but probably Rob Zombie's work print Halloween was definitely a standout in that package. But this film, simply known as Bite, Canadian film, is a Black Fawn distribution film. My first from Black Fawn, believe it or not. This is a company that Glenn raves about a lot. And it's one that I haven't really jumped on the bandwagon, going out of my way to find films specifically from this distribution company. But this one was not bad. I have to give it to Glenn though for just a nice, beautiful copy of it. Beautiful slip. Just really good stuff here, man. Some little work went into this. This is a Chad Archibald film, again from 2015. If I didn't say that already, it's a pretty simple film, pretty simple premise. It has there is one reason why you need to go out of your way to check this movie out, and that is for the practical special effects, which really is the trying to just think of the right word. It's what stands out in this film more than anything. Basically, you get a couple friends, Casey, Jill, and Kristen. Trying to do this without looking at my notes. These three girls, man, they're well, you'd think they're best friends and everything, but as you learn through the course of the film, some of that comes under, some of that is questioned. Specifically the friendship between Jill and Casey. Now, Casey is engaged to get married very quickly too. I mean, she goes on this trip with the girls, sort of like a bachelorette type, one last hurrah before she's tied up to I think of his name, Jared. Yes, Jared. Who now they live in this building, and his mom, Jared's mom, who would be her mother-in-law once married, is the landlord. They do not have a good relationship, and some of it, to be quite honest, Casey's not a very sympathetic character. I had a hard time really sympathizing with her. It's just, and you're supposed to, because really she is the protagonist, although I would maybe argue Jared is much more of a protagonist in this film. He's one that you ought to feel, well, I'm just now thinking of a scene that comes up in the movie. I don't know how much we ought to care or sympathize for him either, quite frankly, but he seemingly does try to do the right thing in terms of show his love for Casey. They're getting married. And there's one scene in particular when they get back from this vacation, completely, that is a disaster. And I guess I'll get to that in a second. So they go to Costa Rica. One last hurrah, right? And while they're there, they meet up with this guy who, anytime you meet up with that guy, you really can't trust. Not just because he's a guy, but different country and whatnot. It's a cliche now. Don't trust anyone when you're out abroad. So he sort of teases them with this secret little swimming hole, and sort of gives them out the directions and everything. And it's secluded. Now, I think we ought to know by now that if it's secluded and out of the way of regular traffic in another country, probably should not go to it, at least in the terms of cliche-ridden films like this, right? But this one works all right. So they go and they start enjoying. Now, it works off as a found footage film early on, but quickly changes that into a regular film. they're in the swimming hole. Casey and I think Casey and Jill are in there. Kristen's filming, and she gets bit by something under the water. She doesn't know what bit her. Casey, that is. It's a pretty good bite though. We'll find out later that this is a body horror in the mold of Cronenberg. Really, I guess it's a Canadian film, so I mean, there's a lot of head nods to Cronenberg's way with this film. And it does. I mean, it does work. The practical effects and what they're able to pull off in this movie is quite amazing in light of where the writing and the story really don't. But it's all right. It goes along well enough that it can be a pretty enjoyable film, actually. So they get bit, but now while they're down there, Jill has absolutely no problem fueling Casey's drinking. Now that is only going to lead to a very bad situation, very poor decision making. Call it decision making when you're just absolutely, again, right words, I don't know, smashed. Okay, Casey gets absolutely smashed. And Jill pretty much sort of pushes her in the pathway of this guy who has no problem taking advantage of her. You find out later on that Casey wakes up the next morning on the beach naked, I think she says. But the thing is, her engagement ring is missing. It's assumed she's just been robbed, everything. We'll find out later who actually takes the ring. And man, it makes this character one of the more hated characters in the movie, actually. Just how she backstabs her friend relentlessly. And so they come back from Costa Rica, right? And the wedding isn't like in a week. It's insane. Like, who goes to Costa Rica for a bachelorette fling literally like a week before the wedding? And you haven't really done anything to prep for the week. So that tells you there's some issues going on even before they leave for Costa Rica. And now that they're back, Casey is just, I mean, drowning in, I really don't want to go through with this. I probably didn't want to go through with this. And now I've got all these decisions. And now she's got a mother-in-law who is her landlord, who does not like her at all. And maybe for good reasons, actually. It's interesting how this film turns, because quite frankly, I'm sort of with Mom on this one, because the more you learn about Casey, she's got some real serious inherent flaws, and even Jill points these flaws out. The movie, I don't know, in the end, is there even anyone? I mean, Kristen ultimately in the end might be the most likable character. She's the one that seemingly does the least amount of damage, although she is the one holding the camera most of the time, if not all the time, as far as we know. And she has no problem either holding Casey back from really some wretched decision-making, which ultimately we find out she's pregnant, right? It's like one thing after another, and then the bug bite really begins to get infected. And then she, in Cronenberg style, like The Fly, this is it's sort of kind of like a companion piece to The Fly, but obviously The Fly is a superior film. I mean, right, this is not. But it does have something to stand on, and that is the practicals, man. When her body starts to turn and she starts to take on the characteristics of whatever this bug was, which is kind of frightening to think that this could happen to you, it starts to get frightening. There is a dream sequence that I about gagged, man. It is a weird, and it does feel like a dream. A lot of times, dreams in movies don't feel like dreams. This one actually did feel, because it is weird. She's already, it's infecting her mind. It's infecting, who she is. And she has this dream that basically she hears something. She goes out to investigate a sound, and all of a sudden she's surprised with a surprise birthday party or something like that. And so all your main cast and everything is, right there. And they're all like, happy birthday. And right in the midst, man, she just drops a load of eggs onto the floor, man. And it is pretty gag worthy, I would say. There are scenes maybe that are in the running too, but that is a disturbing moment until she wakes up and realizes what is becoming of her. And it is, man, It is, and then the movie quickly begins to escalate, and then you have, of course, themes of well, you call it adultery, but I mean they weren't married yet, but it's still, some of that, the backstabbing, the turning on one another, some of the kill scenes. Ultimately, in the end, I mean, okay, so the standout moment is her apartment that really becomes a nest very quickly, and sort of reeks of a smell that you just wonder how long is this going to go on for before somebody, even without anyone turning missing, someone is going to call someone. I mean, but her apartment literally does start to become a nest, and full of just millions of eggs of these little insect creatures, and that creates some interesting set design. What they put into that was actually pretty remarkable. The creature effects of her and her turning are pretty awesome. I'm so glad they didn't just run off with CGI or anything like that. This is for all intents and purposes, I think, is just hands-on, and it looks pretty freaking good. The rest of the story arcs, the characters, and how all that sort of goes to its, we've seen it done better in other movies. I just think about The Descent and how some of that comes back on a few of the characters in more or less through dialogue, conversation. But it has a much deeper impact, I think. It resonates more. This one, it's hard. Now, I did say, when she gets back from Costa Rica, her fiance shows up a little quicker than she thinks, and he surprises her with an antique high chair that he had restored. And this actually really is, from his point of view, a remarkable moment. And he's thinking really down the road. He's thinking about his love for her. And quite frankly, I don't know how much she deserves somebody like this guy. Now, this guy will make his own decisions a little bit later into the film that will call that into question. And, so it's an interesting... the actors and actresses just I don't know. I think now Casey, when she begins to turn, pulls in a pretty good feat, a really good job. A lot of the surrounding story, though, narrative, it never really feels like it's just fleshed out well or acted well, executed well. But it is remarkable, just for the practicals, for the nest. The end seems a little cliche. Oh, that's a little funny. It does beg some deeper questions, in terms of what really is out there and what you could potentially really run into when you're just out and about vacationing in a foreign land, not having any idea the kind of, as the one guy character says, kind of critters you may run into. And so this is a neat little watch, man. I really enjoyed it. Some things could have been better. But again, the practicals, man, are worth it, man. And it is my first Black Fawn distribution film, so you can't go wrong with that, right? It is. It was neat, man. I heard, reading a review, that when this was getting its first screenings, I heard somebody actually fainted, passed out, or threw up, or and that was documented apparently, or at least found out to be a true case. And it has its gag moments, for sure. Did I ever feel like I was going to vomit? No. Or pass out? No. Maybe I'm just getting too desensitized to this junk. I don't know. Anyways, and I mean junk in the greatest, most possible way. It is what it is. But it's not bad, man. The practicals are pretty freaking good. Yeah, so anyways, we'll leave it there. Random week bite from Chad Archibald, 2015 film here at week 534. We are quickly moving on into theme week, which is Wokeism Be Damned. Looking forward to that. Ought to be a fun week. Anyways, we always end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.